this computer. Okay, hi everybody, and thank you for tuning in to, this is episode like 5 of BAC, and this is the first episode of the WCC College Draft analysis. WCC is putting on a college draft with 5 anonymous GMs with their teams, and they're picking their teams, and we are providing our thoughts on their teams, and that's what we're doing here today. I have 4 lovely guests with me today. If they would like to introduce themselves, whoever wants to go first can just start talking.
I'll go. I'm Danika Liou. I played for Utah teams for 5 years, most recently at the University of Utah quidditch team, and I also ref a lot throughout the sport.
I am Catherine Condit. I play for Cal Quidditch. I've been playing for 2 years, and this would have been my 3rd year if COVID wasn't happening. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I played for Anteater Quidditch for 4 years and played on LA Guardians for a year. And I'm a chaser. I don't know if we're same positions.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I'm Erin Moreno. I most recently played for the Long Beach Funky Quaffles, and I've been involved for 7-ish years.
Awesome. I believe all of us use the she, her pronoun series. Is that correct? I don't want to assume. Okay, awesome. If you somehow are watching this and don't know who I am Lindsey. I played for the Lost Boys. I played for, I think this would have been year 8, if I am counting correctly. And I'm your host. So we're going to go through the draft. All of us have received the draft before this. It was done earlier this week. So we are going to go through pick by pick and release the draft to everybody else as we go along. So let's get this started. So I'm going to share my screen. Awesome. Now, for our viewers, we have not practiced this. I have never done anything like this. We don't have any fancy setup like you saw with the 8th man and their Skype graphics. This is about as bare bones as it gets. And I will also be editing this video, and I've never edited a video before, so this is gonna be a lot of fun. So we are going to hop right into it. As you can see, we have our 5 teams with our 5 anonymous GMs, and then this was a snake draft. So it's going to start with the blue team, purple, red, gray, teal, and then lap back around with teal, back to blue, and so forth. Each team had 4 picks for this. There's going to be a 7 max gender rule, and I believe there's 12 picks for this, but I could be wrong, but I think it's 12. Yeah, that's how much we're doing, is 12. So yeah, we're just going to hop right into it. And so we have our first pick from the blue team. I am using handoff on my Apple devices, and hopefully it will work, and it did. Fantastic. So first pick from the blue team was Kobe. Erin, what do you think of this pick?
So to me, there were really only going to be one of 2 picks for our first round pick. Could have gone either way, although I do think that Kobe is the safer pick. Just because he does bring MLQ and, U.S. national team through his experience at the Development Academy last summer. There's also, not a ton of elite players in the college scene out west. Kobe Kendall, obviously getting that honor to be put on the Development Academy, is one of those players. And he's definitely, one of the biggest playmakers out west. Not even only in the college level, but just in general. Obviously, UCI's experience the past few years has been really greatly kind of rested on his shoulders, and how his play style has kind of helped that team evolve, and his leadership even has helped his teammates even improve. Yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome.
I think.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine anyone else being picked first. I think it was no surprise to any of us when we saw his name be the first name. Does anyone else have any thoughts on the Kobe pick? Yeah, pretty straightforward. It's also, when you get Kobe, you also have a pretty elite seeker, which is pretty convenient. Not that many teams have the capability to use him that way, because you usually need him for a switch on pitch game, but just having the diversity there is pretty helpful. All right, so our first pick from Team Purple, we're going to go to Justin Van Lyten. He plays for UCLA. Justin, I think, was the only, like, if this was going to start with beaters, Justin and Kobe were going to go first. I don't think anyone saw anything other than that happening. I played with Justin on Guardians and on LA Aftershock, and he's incredible. He's probably one of the only beaters in the West who can go toe-to-toe with Kobe. That, like, includes the club, and Kobe will always come out on top, but Justin has certainly gotten a handful of stops with Kobe. I don't see any other beater going before either of these two. I think it was a smart pick for both blue and purple to take them first. So I think that was pretty straightforward. Anyone else have thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Justin was definitely, if Kobe didn't go first, Justin would have been my first pick. And I think it just kind of depends on the kind of team that you want to build around. Both these players are like really, really just like top tier beaters. Like you said, Lindsey, not just at the collegiate level, but in the entire region. I've been really impressed with Justin's play style since I moved out here a few years ago. And he's a really good beater, obviously, but he's also a fairly elite seeker and chaser too. So I'm interested to see if, I guess I don't know exactly how this draft works, if purple team is planning on only playing Justin as a beater. Obviously that is where he's strongest at, but he can also play seeker and chaser at a fairly elite level. And I would actually argue, you know, Kobe's a great player, love him to death, but Justin has taken his fair share of matches away from Kobe. Justin like knows how Kobe plays, and this is a really good pick, especially following blue team picking Kobe, because like obviously they're the only two players on the board right now, so this could go any direction, but it's a great toe-to-toe. It puts purple team just like right up there with blue team.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Both of those two players can easily just run the field on their own, like regardless of what they're playing. Like I've played against both of them playing all four positions throughout the game, and they can literally do whatever they want and just dominate. So I think they're both fair picks.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see either of these people go like right away immediately, because they're both very, very athletic people that have a lot of stamina. They're very aggressive beaters, so they can really take control of the pitch, and they can read the pitch really fast too, and like make those quick second decisions. Yeah.
All right. And first pick for red is Ivan Avalos, I think is how you say his name. Catherine, as a Cal player, what do you think of this pick?
Yeah, well, it's Ivan Avalos, actually. Ivan's a really strong beater. I think that he definitely has really carried the Cal team on his back, for sure. And I think that probably one of his, like, one things that I guess makes him not as strong as the other two beaters. He probably doesn't have the stamina. He definitely can play really, really well for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then he's tired, he needs to go out. But he reads the field really well, and he can throw. He has really incredible aim. He can throw. I've seen him make beats from halfway across the field and immediately then turn and catch a ball that's coming his way. And yeah, I think he is a good choice for this red team.
I personally had not heard of him before Pfenning went on that AQD rant about why, like, him not being picked in the 8th man draft. And then I had the pleasure of covering not one but 2 Cal games on BAC previously, and I actually was like, oh, I know who this player is. I'm going to keep my eye on him. And he, like, these are all games from the 2019 season. And they all, like, exceeded my expectations of this player that I truly didn't even know his name. So I think, especially if you're going to see the 2 largest beaters go first, there's no way you can't be like, oh, dang, I need to get a beater right now. So Ivan just made sense. Next pick, first pick for the gray team, is we finally segue away from beaters and we get Daniel Belton from UCI Anteater Quidditch. Rachel, as a teammate, what do you think of this one?
It's interesting that everyone went for beaters and then this person went for a chaser next, but I'm definitely not surprised Daniel was someone's first pick. He's been playing for 2 years now, and he already made a name for himself after his first season. He played really, really well over the summer on OC Riptide too, playing with some community people on that. And he is a very athletic, very aggressive player. He is phenomenal at driving. If you just put the ball in his hands, he will take care of the rest.
Having played against him, I can attest to the fact that it is just very scary when he has a ball and he's running. Like, I want to be there for my team, but I also like care for my body and don't want to get concussed. He just drives through anything.
I have jokingly called him Daniel Bone Crusher Belton because he has broken 2 collarbones in events that weren't even like super important. Like, one was a fantasy tournament and then the other was at the OC Riptide practice.
Yeah, see,
he goes like 100% all the time.
When there's chasers and keepers like that, I'm really glad that I'm a beater.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I also really like this pick for the gray team, especially like after all these strong beaters have been pulled. Like, Daniel is a really, really great ball carrier because he has that phenomenal driving ability. But more so than that, like in practices and things like that, like he really takes the time to work with his wing chasers. Like, if they are like not as experienced maybe as he is, like he's very able to communicate with them where he wants them to go, like getting them in the right positions and helping like keep the ball up top until they're in the best position possible for them to actually like make a move with that quaffle. I do think it's going to be interesting to see how this GM answers the need for a strong beater, since so many have come off the board, especially because Belton is a great driver, but, you know, I mean, you can drive all you want against like Kobe and Justin, and like it's like unless they are taken out of the play by another beater or something else going on, like driving's only going to work so much.
I agree with all of that. I was also surprised to not see the consistent beaters come off the board at the first pick, but if we're talking like the first ball carrier chaser move, I think Belton is the most elite choice you can get, especially with his diversity as also being a seeker. When you only have a 12-team roster, you have to make sure that the players you're picking can do more than one thing, and Daniel and Kobe are probably the only 2 so far that can do more than one position like at an elite level. So I think that's a smart pick. And I guess if Gray is thinking with the snake draft, if they know the teal GM isn't going to go after their beater choice or whatever, it makes sense to maybe take the player you could see teal taking instead. But definitely an interesting choice, but I like it and I'm excited to see where it goes. Okay, and then our last pick of the first draft, first pick for Team Teal, we have Aiden Phipps, the Cal keeper, that also got a Pfenning rant on AQD recently. Catherine, what do you think of this pick?
I think it's a very bold choice. Aiden is an amazing player, and he's only been playing for 1 year. He's part of the Phipps legacy, and he has the driving abilities that his older brother Jonah has, and the catching, everything that Eli has. He has really good field awareness. I think that as one of his wing chasers, I definitely appreciate that he can see the field and will look out for the moments when he can pass. But at the same time, he's incredibly fast, like so fast, and he can get everyone out of his way and just run to the hoops and score when he wants to.
I don't know if you would agree with this, Catherine, but I was personally really surprised to see Aiden go before Eli in this draft. I've just seen Eli play more than I've seen Aiden.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you're going for a ball carrier as your first pick, it makes sense to take Aiden, but I think Eli may have been, like, if you're going to go for a Cal Phipps brother, I think Eli is a step above Aiden just for the sheer fact of having more years of experience. But
yeah, I do think Aiden lacks some of the Quidditch IQ. He could be better about utilizing his beaters. He definitely like zones in a bit when he's playing and just kind of like does what's happening in front of him. So in that case, I think I might have chosen Eli as well, but I don't know. strong pick still.
Yeah, I think it's smart and it makes sense. I just, if you're going to go with the Phipps, I personally could see myself taking Eli first. But you need a ball carrier, so that seems to be what Teal's going for.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have thoughts on the Aiden pick? Cool. Okay. Teal's second choice is going to be Philip Tran from UCLA. Philip did a few years on Wizards and now is on his, I think, second year at UCLA. He's much less known than anyone who's been picked so far, but I think we're going to see a big dip between the top 3 beaters that everyone knows versus the rest of the beaters that we're going to see in this whole draft. And Philip is right, has just kind of been in Justin's shadow for a while. And if you think of UCLA and beaters, you think Justin and only thinks of Philip. But he's smart. He's a quick learner. He transitioned pretty seamlessly from Wizards to UCLA. He's like fast. He's got like all of the check marks there, and he could have he could see a lot more success if he keeps playing and isn't kind of in the shadow of like a bigger name. But I think right now on UCLA, people just see Justin, and I hope that this upcoming year, if Justin is done playing, I think he's done, but I think he's going to grad school, so he may actually keep playing. I don't know UCLA people's lives, but if I think he will step up and fill the hole in UCLA with Justin leaving, but it's definitely just a name that I didn't expect to see go so early just because we don't hear it very often.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is kind of an interesting duo for me because it seems like they're both fairly newer players, which could work to your advantage, like given that these players theoretically would have a few weeks of practice together, you know, assuming that Aiden and Philip could like work together, they could communicate with each other and talk about what they need. They might not have like bad habits from their own teams that they'd have to worry about clashing. It might be a good like mix to have kind of newer people like merging onto a newer team. But it's definitely an interesting choice for me. I'm very interested to see what Teal team does with the, like building out the rest of their team with these younger picks.
Yeah, I was thinking something along the lines of Erin as well. I don't know too much about Aiden and Philip. I know a little bit more about Philip than Aiden just because I don't know too many Cal people. But I definitely expected to see some names that I've heard a little bit more so far in Teal teams. So I feel like they might have a specific strategy in mind, and I'm interested to see what that would be.
Yeah. All right, and then we finally see the beater we expected to see come up first for gray team. We have Drew Smith. He graduated December from Utah State, so he was not at regionals. He was a coach at regionals. Danika, what are your thoughts on the Drew pick?
Yeah, like with you guys saying the like stuff about Teal team, like they're lesser known names, I really do think that Drew should have gone a little bit earlier, because he is a smart player. Drew's not as aggressive as like Justin or Kobe for sure, but he can beat from a pretty like far distance. Like he's got that range and he's smart. He knows when he needs to come back and help his beater partner, which I think is his biggest strength. He's a very good support for his team, but he knows how to step up and be aggressive when he needs to. So for Utah State, for the beginning of their season when he was playing with them, he had Adam
Cyril.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was like, my name just, or the name just completely went blank. So Drew had Adam supporting him throughout the whole first of the season, and he was able to step into that role, which in previous seasons, Drew was the supporting role to Anthony Snap.
Yep.
Right? So I think that Drew is a good pick because he is so versatile and he's smart.
I am a huge Drew fan. I am a huge Utah State fan. Everyone knows that. But I never had the chance to play with Drew because he played for one tournament at the Lost Boys that I wasn't at because I was in Florida. But my whole team came back and they were like, Drew just and like stepped on the field and knew exactly what their partner was doing, could do was where they needed to be. When we did like our end of season award, like his award was like fits like a glove because he just stepped onto the field and immediately was like in the zone. Him and Snap also, I think, are the reason why Utah State won regionals last year. That team would have not been able to beat Cal if they didn't have Snap and Drew holding on the beater line. I think the reason why we didn't see Drew get taken earlier is probably because Drew is a slightly lesser known name, and I think the Gray team felt confident that Drew was not going to be taken by Teal, and that's why, and maybe was a little more nervous of Belton being taken by Teal. If that was their logic, it checks out. I'm happy to see Drew make the second round because he's incredible. So,
yeah.
Yeah, he's a really good beater. And to your point, Lindsay, until I saw his name come up, I definitely forgot that he existed. I mean, granted, I'm also not really from out here, so I can't really keep tabs on who graduated when and where people are from. But I remember watching the regional finals with Cal and Utah, and it's something that I don't think that you see a lot in Quidditch. Honestly, I'm going to say at the national level, is a male beater who is able to adapt to his partners. A lot of times you see the male beaters stepping into those roles as the engaged beaters. They're not really experienced or well practiced in the free beater role. And Drew, having that extensive experience playing with Anthony Snap, really allowed him to get that experience. And it really opens up Gray teams like options here, because it's like, regardless of if you want to go with a mixed set, if you're going to go and try and go with like a dual male set, like Drew is going to be one of the strongest picks for that, just because, I mean, Kobe and Justin are great, but kind of like what Rachel said, they're both highly aggressive, sometimes to a detriment to themselves or their team. They can get sucked into beater battles. They can get sucked into situations they don't need to be in. Drew has that game intelligence. He has that strategy behind him that prevents those situations from even happening in the first place.
Yeah, I agree completely. Being from Utah, we do scrimmages together sometimes. Like, it's a bit of a trouble, but we do scrimmages together, and just like getting to partner with Drew is so easy. Like, it doesn't matter what level you're at, he can adapt to being more aggressive to help you, or to being less aggressive, and like you can help him. It just really depends, and I think that's the best thing about him as a player.
I also think Drew is going to work really well with Daniel. If Daniel's going to be the primary ball carrier for a Gray team, I think that's a great pairing together. And I think that Daniel will know how to work with Drew, and Drew will know how to work with Daniel. And I think that'll just become naturally to both of them. So happy with that pick. All right. Next, for Red, we are seeing the other Phipps. We've got Eli Phipps from Cal as the Red second pick. Catherine, what do you think of this one?
I think it's a great pick. Eli is a superstar, and he's probably done some of the craziest athletic plays I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know, if you throw a ball to him behind the hoops, he will jump and he will catch that ball. Also, Ivan and Eli together, I know Eli is a chaser, but he can be utilized as keeper sometimes. And they're a really good pairing. They're also roommates, so, but
Chemistry.
Yeah, they got that chemistry. But yeah, Eli's a really good choice, and he's fast. He also has a good football background, so he's really good defensively, and he can take people who are like twice his size, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I will admit, I honestly think that the Elijah pick here makes me like the Ivan pick a lot more. Eli is such a strong wing chaser that it really opens up the potential. Like, Ivan doesn't need to clear as many lanes for drives. Like, whoever your ball carrier is, if you can get like a really good passer as your ball carrier, as long as Eli can get in there, get those like positions and like get the like quick finishes, like you don't even need to worry about taking out Justin and Kobe for more than a few seconds, which is sometimes all you're going to get.
Definitely Elijah is one of those players where once you give the ball to him, you just give it to him and you watch him go. He will finish that all the way through. He's not one of those players where you have to be like, oh, well, he's sorry, losing my words. But he's definitely one of those players where once you give it to him, he'll just like get up and go. He'll finish it all the way through to the hoops. And like Erin was saying, like, you don't have to make a huge window. The beaters don't have to make a huge window for him. You just give him like that split-second window and he will make it happen.
Also, he isn't put down here as a chaser, or isn't put down here as a beater, but he can beat, and he's actually really, really good at it. He might be one of our best beaters, even though he does chase. So if you need a sub, Eli can be there.
Yeah, I think Eli is probably the best off-ball chaser in the West. Like, that could even involve club. Like, he has a very similar play style to Kendrick Sorrell on Lost Boys of just, like, if you get the ball behind the hoop, both of them will find a way to catch it. And some of the passes I've seen in these BAC episodes to Eli, I've been like, what was Pfenning thinking? That was so stupid, and all of a sudden it's a goal because Eli was able to score off it. So, super smart pick. Really, I'm excited to see. I wish these teams were going to be real because I would love to see that combo come out on a fantasy-style team. Okay, so we have second pick for purple. One of my personal faves, you've got Kellen, another Utah State player. He is a keeper seeker. Danika, what do you think of this pick?
I think it's smart to pick Kellen earlier on because he can do so much. I think that picking Kellen for a team is highly variable on what you want him to do, though. As Utah State saw throughout the year, playing Kellen all game, every game at keeper, and then immediately having him switch to seeker, it doesn't work as well. So I think that, yes, Kellen is a really great pick because he is really athletic. He is good at all of those three positions that are listed, keeper, chaser, seeker, right? Like, he's solid at any of them, but I think that Purple GM needs to pick like strong keepers and chasers as well in order to back Kellen up so that he can do the seeker thing. Because if, I don't know exactly how they're making this work, but if this was real life, Kellen would get too tired to do everything all game long, which we saw it throughout the season. Like, he was exhausted. But I do think that he's an amazing player, and seeking is his strong suit for sure. Like, the amount of snitches I've seen him catch in under a minute is ridiculous. So I do think that he's a really good pick. I think it's interesting to pick someone, I mean, similar to like Daniel Belton, right? Like, with the, like, can do a lot of things. I think that it is smart to pick someone that can do a lot in a draft. Like you said, Lindsay, just someone who can do whatever you need them to because you've only got 12 players. So I do think it's a smart pick. I don't know that I would have picked him round 2, probably 3, because he is still pretty new. He's pretty fresh. He's not perfect at reading the field. Kellen relies a lot on brute strength rather than like smart plays. Like, he can pass to his female chasers, but that's not his style. His style is mostly to drive it in, to like quickly go after the snitch. That's why he's such a good seeker, because he just gets in there. But I think that Purple team needs another like solid keeper if they want the team to do well.
Yeah. I like you said, we saw the transition that Utah State made from having Cameron to losing Cameron really was, not only did it affect their game, but it affected how Kellen could play, because Kellen used to be Cameron sub once for a break, and then Cameron would sub back in, and then Kellen would be able to go snitch. So it was a different format that would work so well for them. And if they don't have the people to support Kellen to be able to do all the things that he's good at, they're not going to be able to succeed. So
yeah, exactly.
Next pick, and we're going back to blue with the greatest person to ever play Quidditch of all time. Cameron Bombar is blue's second pick. Danika, let's go back to you on this one too.
Yeah, so this is why I say Kellen went too early. I would have switched this for sure. Like, having Cameron go this late is kind of amazing to me because he is a ridiculous keeper. Like, he can read the field like no other. He doesn't have to be able to drive it in all the way. He can. He's strong enough to, but he doesn't have to. He's so smart that he can just see the entire field, pass it to someone in 2 seconds, and they've got it. You also can't just like shoot on Cam because he's got sticky fingers. Like, it's stupid. I hate trying to chase against Cam because I can never score. But, like, that's why I say that Kellen went too early, because I do think that Cameron should have gone way earlier than this. He's just so solid. And I think that goes for basically all Utah State players. Most of them are just really smart. They're not like a super aggressive, super big team, but they're smart. And I think that really shows in Cameron as being their coach for the last 5 years, right? So, yeah, I would have picked Cameron earlier, but blue team got a steal there. They got a really good choice. And especially with Kobe, like, that beater keeper pair is pretty amazing.
Yeah, going off just what Danika just finished up saying, I am floored that blue team got Kobe, Kendall, and Cameron. Like, the first and last, like, of the first, like, round of the snake does not make sense to me, because it's like, Kobe alone, like, you've got this phenomenally, like, aggressive beater clearing driving lanes for you. Great. Like, Cameron's a great driver. If Kobe gets wrapped up in a beater battle with Justin or, like, Ivan or Drew or anything else happens, like, great. Cameron's got a great shot. Like, I don't really know how this doesn't work for blue team. Like, unless blue GM just really kind of, are we allowed to cuss on this? I don't know. Just really like shits the bed on the rest of their picks. Like, I don't really know how, like, the rest of the teams really come back from this. I did some research earlier this week since we got the picks earlier and stuff like that. And Cameron is, like, one of the only players out west with 3 seasons of MLQ experience. And, like, that shows in the way that he plays. And like Danika was saying, and like Lindsey knows, like, he's a very intelligent player. And, like, that is just going to be so, so great, because Kobe likes to play really hard and really fast. And it's like, the, like, more experience of a keeper or ball carrier that you have with that kind of a play style, the more easily he's going to be ready to take advantages of those split seconds that Kobe can make for him, or those 10 seconds of like 3 bludger plays that, like, happen.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the rest of blue team is going to look like, because the fact that they got both Cameron and Kobe is phenomenal. I don't know too much about a lot of Utah players, but I would say, along with what some of you've been saying, I'm surprised that Kellyan went before Cameron, because Cameron's, like, the one name that I know the most from Utah. Like, if you watch just one Utah game, he's one of the people that stands out the most to me. And like you guys were saying, he's not, like, the most athletic, physically aggressive player, but he's a very wise player. He has a lot of experience to go with him. So he still makes those plays happen. He's still able to have that really good field awareness and make something happen, whether he has, whether Kobe's, making those beater openings for him or is sucked up somewhere else, like what Erin said. And I think with, like, the other picks that we're going to see with blue team too, he's going to work really well with those players.
As long as he has even a half decent chaser lineup, that team's going to do really well.
Not to hit, I don't know what the phrase I'm thinking of is, but I'm going to talk about Cameron more. I am baffled. I watched this draft. I, like, sat in, like, on the GMs choosing it, and I was just, like, waiting for Cameron's name to come up, and the fact that it didn't blew my, like, the fact that it took this long. I think gray team could have gone with Cameron over Daniel. It would have been a strong pick. I think teal team could have gone with Cameron over Aiden. It would have been a strong pick. The beaters are a little more complicated because there are like a beater in this with such a small team, you do need a strong one, and there's so few to go so fast. I had no complaints there, but I could not believe that Cameron made it this far without being picked. I completely agree that Cameron should have gone before Kellen, but I do see purple trying to go for a more diverse lineup, and seeing Kellen can seek, and then blue team already has a seeker with Kobe if they choose to go that alley, and Cameron really can keep. I played on a few fantasy tournaments with Cameron. I've literally gone to Utah for tournaments and said I'm only playing if I'm on Cameron's team, because every time he's so adaptable. He can play with anybody. He can do anything. He's incredible. I just I'm so happy for Blue for getting them, and I think seeing Cameron and Kobe playing a team together is going to would be fantastic in this hypothetical world. Yeah, really, that's like the value pick of the century, in my opinion. Okay, great. Now that we've all talked about how much how many think Cameron is? Let's move on. All right, I got our next pick from the Liou team is Maxine Gutierrez. She is a San Jose State beater. I have had the pleasure of seeing Maxine play for SJSU. I saw her play for Argonauts, and I saw her play for FOG. The West is not full of elite beaters, period. Never mind elite female beaters. That's just subjective. Danika, you're incredible. I think that
it's fair. It is a fair assessment.
I'm not going. There's no way of saying that in a nicer way. Maxine, similar to Cameron having 3 years of MLQ experience, I think Maxine and Kobe are going to be the only partner here that exists that will have MLQ experience, even though they weren't together, but it'll be a pair, anyway. I think it's a smart pick. Maxine plays a conservative, reserved game, which I think Kobe needs. Kobe can't have a partner that's going to do crazy things because he has to do the crazy things, and if they're both doing crazy things, then nothing's going to get done. So I think it's a smart pick. I would be excited to see them play together in real life. Maxine is someone who doesn't really get a lot of attention in the West because she's on San Jose State, which doesn't really get a lot of attention in the West. But she's played some pretty great games. I think she's a good pick. I'm not surprised to see her as our first female beater selected. Anyone else have thoughts on the Maxine pick?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that she's the first female just in general that's been picked. I mean, obviously it's,
Dang, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, obviously it's a bummer that it took till the third round for us to see a female on this board, but I'm not surprised that she was the first one that was picked. She is definitely a great beater and has a lot of experience on her belt, like what Lindsey said, and will definitely work well with Kobe because she can definitely, Kobe's the kind of player where he will work best probably if he has someone that can, pick up his mess almost in a little bit. He will just run all over the pitch doing his thing, and he needs someone that's yeah, okay, that's what we're doing, let's go. And Maxine is definitely someone that could do that with him, but she's also she's not just support, she can be a very aggressive beater. I've seen before. She's good at contact and stuff like that. So again, I'm very excited to see how Blue Team turns out because she's a really good beater, and I think that she will pair well with Kobe and with Cameron.
Yeah, I like this pair together. I wasn't entirely sure how I felt about it at first, although to be fair, like we said, I've never had much of a reason to watch San Jose State play before. I caught a few games at regionals and stuff like that, but unless they were playing Anteater Quidditch, there weren't a lot of times that I just kind of went out of my way to watch them play. Obviously, we played against FOG when we played on Aftershock, and I have a vague memory of that game. But I do think, honestly, thinking back to, obviously, I guess this is kind of insider info. Sorry, guys. But going with Kobe to the Development Academy and getting to watch how he played with kind of top tier national level beaters. His partner that they paired him with a lot was Serena from Tufts. And I think she and Maxine both play a very similar game. I think that they are both female beaters who have kind of been put into the dominant position on their teams. And that is not typically a place that female beaters usually get to play. And so I think that Maxine being able to carry that experience from her team, she is the one who has to make the decision. She's the one who spots all the plays that are going on. She needs to communicate them to her partner all the time. If Kobe is able to slow down his game enough in order to work with her, they're going to work together really, really well. That's going to be kind of reliant on Kobe not overextending himself and or Maxine being able to kind of rein him in when it's needed though also.
I do think that since San Jose had kind of a rough year when they lost a bunch of people, right? I think that Maxine having to be able to adapt to stepping into that role, to being able to step back and kind of coach the new beaters and help them figure out the game. I think that she'll be able to keep up with Kobe just fine as far as cleaning up after him or adapting to his style, because she has had to adapt so much just because of all of the turnover from her team.
Smart pick from blue. All right, now we're going to the purple's third pick is Jonathan from UCLA. He's their star keeper, seen here on the draft board image. Danika, what do you think of this?
I think that it's a really smart pick after picking Kellen. So like what I said earlier, the purple team, they need a strong keeper in order for Kellen to be a strong chaser / seeker. And I think picking Jonathan is a really good pick because he can just drive down the field. Like he's so thick. like playing against Jonathan, it's honestly our team kind of game planned around him and Justin together, and them being on the same team is such a good idea because Justin can clear the field and then Jonathan can just take it all the way in. And even if he like gets wrapped up, he's now got Kellen that he can dish to, who can also just drive it in. I think it's a really smart pick.
I think this was like from the draft so far as like the strategy of pairing people, this has been the most strategic decision made so far. Because as we said, like if Kellen is expected to do everything, he can try and he will do a decent job at trying, but he can't do it all. And I was kind of surprised to see Jonathan go third round, but I don't know who I would have maybe I would have seen Jonathan go on teal with Philtran anyway and have going the UCLA route with that, but it's not a huge shock to see him go after Cameron and Kellen, but I think this lineup so far is like an all-star stitch on pitch setup, and I'm excited to see where purple goes with it. I think it's a really great start.
I do like the Jonathan pick paired with Kellen, kind of like what Danika was saying, especially with, like we've kind of said, I think Kellen has the ability, and I'm thinking back to the Utah State game. Kellen has the ability to get into the hoops and to take the physicality, but I think he's going to succeed a lot more if he doesn't have to go through everyone on the defense in order to do so. If he only has to go through like one chaser or like a keeper, I think he's going to be a lot more successful at scoring. Jonathan, I think, has more driving power, which I think is a good pair. I think that this was a good place for this player to be picked because what we've seen from UCLA is that I don't think Jonathan does a good job of utilizing his female chasers. And I think that is going to be something that really kind of comes out for this team. Obviously, the chemistry between Jonathan and Justin is gonna like get them really far, and maybe they don't need it, but it's like we've got a 7 max gender role here. So at some point, at least one of these players is going to need to be a ball carrier who can utilize their female chasers successfully. And I have not historically seen that from Jonathan.
We also don't really see that from Kellen as much either. So I do think this is somewhere where the purple team will struggle. I think Kellen has had less opportunities to do so, not because of Utah State's chasers. I think it's more to do with just he's played under Cameron for so long. And when I watched Kellen play this year at regionals, I saw a much bigger improvement of like his field awareness than what he was last year when he only subbed in for a few minutes before seeking. So I'm hoping that Kellen can kind of help balance that out from Jonathan. It will really see where the purple team goes with who they kind of round this out with. But I do think that could definitely be a problem if we're talking real life gameplay.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. They're both pretty big into driving it in on their own because they know that they can most of the time. So they don't pass as much, which is why I think it's smart to put them together as if Kellen was a chaser, because I do think that Jonathan would utilize Kellen, but I'm curious how it's going to work with their chasers for sure.
I do know
they're female chasers, sorry.
Good. I do know that, like, speaking from having played the UCLA, when Jonathan has the ball, I think probably one of our biggest things that trips us up is defense and being able to stop those drives. But also having, once the ball gets passed to someone else, it's like fairly easy to stop it. So I know they rely really heavily on Jonathan. And when he got injured in the game at Westerns, that really changed how the game went for us. And yeah, I think that's probably what really helped us win.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna go to our Reds' third pick, another Utah player. This is the first University of Utah player, Luke. Danika, what do you think of this pick?
I think he's in a fair spot. Luke, he is a really good keeper, but he does have his weaknesses as his coach. You know, like I definitely have seen it more than a lot of other people. What I think is funny is in the like reasons why GMs picked him is because he's like Pfenning, is what they said.
Yeah.
I can see that to an extent. I get why people like to compare Luke to Pfenning, but I think that their play styles are actually drastically different when you actively look at them. Yes, they both like can drive it in. Yes, they can both make shots from a distance. Yes, they both utilize their chasers. However, I think that Luke has a bit more of a problem when it comes to passing because he will pass it even if he doesn't need to, which can be problematic for the team. Like I have told Luke on many occasions, you need to be more selfish. That's how we win. You need to be more selfish, which is great in practice. You can always improve your players when you have a keeper that is willing to pass. I think his weakness is that he wants to pass it even when it's like a no beater situation, you can just drive it in. So I think that it's fair to put him here because he is a really good keeper. He can drive it in. He can shoot from forever away and make it in. Like, but I see him going third round for sure because of that little stipulation of he doesn't quite know when is the best time to pass and when's the best time to be selfish and take it in. But Luke also, I think he gets that passing because he played for the elite first. RIP Utah elite. But because he had that experience on a team where they utilized passing so much, he got used to that, and then going to a team where the chasers maybe don't always need that pass, it was hard for him to adapt to. So Luke is a really good player, but I think his adaptability factor is a little lacking.
I am a big Luke fan after only seeing a few University of Utah games. I was really sad because he got pretty badly injured at the beginning of regionals, right?
Oh, first game, yeah.
I was so stoked to watch that.
His knee, yep.
Gone. I was really bummed because I'd only seen him play a few times. I was really excited to like see some more Luke action. I think I agree from what I have seen from him. His decision making is very team oriented, which I love as a keeper and as a player of the sport. But like, I think
when you want to win, it can be a problem.
Right. So I think I'm hoping that if this hypothetical team gets to practice together, he'll have someone like Eli who is literally can catch any pass thrown to him within like a 6-foot radius, and Luke would be able to trust Eli and then see like what passes he can make to Eli and what passes he doesn't need to. If for those of you watching who do not know who Luke is, he is like Tony Rodriguez size. Like he's a monster. He is, I think, the biggest person chosen so far by like a long shot. He's capable of doing a lot of things. I don't know why he doesn't do a lot of things. I also think that Luke could be, this is a smart pick where it is. I think him and Eli are a great pair together. I'm not surprised he didn't go earlier. I am happy to see him go. I feel like not many people know who Luke is just because University of Utah doesn't go many places outside of like your area, other than like regionals, obviously. So I was afraid that he would go even later just because people didn't know him. So that was nice, at least. But I'm a huge Luke fan. Happy to see him on here getting some recognition because he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, and he does carry our team, which is why it was such a rough loss to lose him the first like 2 minutes of the first game at regionals. So I do think that he's a good pick. And yeah, like I said, he is very team oriented. So like passing to his chasers won't be a problem. It just depends on who else is drafted as his chasers. I really think that it's going to depend on the core. But yeah, it's just because he's such a chill dude. Like he really is very similar to Tony in my opinion, just like kind of chill, like, hey, how you doing? Right? And he definitely brings that persona to the field. I don't know if like y'all probably haven't reffed him, but I have when he wasn't like on my team, and you can just hear him walking down the field like, oh, okay, next time you got it, no problem, right? So he's just got that persona, and I think that that's why that like little competitive edge is kind of lacking, it's because he's so interested in just having fun and like passing and being with his team rather than I need to score right now.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna go to gray team's next pick. We've got Dana Dixon from UCLA. Erin, what do you think of this pick?
I am obsessed with this pick. It's really hard because I still think blue team is pulling in some real good picks, but this is like right up there. For me, the Daniel Belton, Dana Dixon combo is, I don't even have words to describe how I feel about it accurately, because like I said, like Daniel is somebody who works with his wing chasers, and he can like let them get in the right positions. Like he knows how to wait for them to be in the right place. I think Dana has had a lot of experience getting in the right positions and not being utilized. And I think that this gives them like such a good opportunity to actually like finish on so many plays that we all know that they can. I think we only even saw like kind of like the tip of what they could do in a game during like the aftershock games. And then this also, like, this gives you so much flexibility on your defense even. Dana and Belton are both very strong, different play style, like point chasers that you could just put up on point defense. If you wanted to have like a stronger wing on like your strong side, you could put Belton back and you could have Dana like wrap up top. Like they're scrappy. They know exactly like the movements to make. They know how their lateral movement is so strong. They can like keep up with almost anybody else in the game on defense. And they're not afraid of the physicality. They were also one of the Western Championship Cup top scorers, the only non-binary or non-male. I know we're not using that term anymore, but like the only non-male to even make the board. And yeah, so I think this is like a really, really good combination. And especially with Drew, like having that intelligence is just going to get both of these players in positions that they need to be in order to like capitalize on like what their abilities could be.
Yeah, I agree with Dana's a really smart pick for defense as well as offense, because they are not afraid to make that hit or to take that hit in order to be in the right spot. And I think that's really smart.
If I'm being honest, I'm surprised it took this long for someone to pick up Dana. I feel like they're one of the strongest F&B female non-binary players out there in the West Collegiate Division right now. But definitely, like Erin said, Daniel and Dana together is a combination I would love to see, because they're both super athletic, super fast. They can both be super scrappy, both great on defense and on offense, great hands. I think that they would have great chemistry on the pitch together. So it'd be really interesting to see that combo.
I'm excited about it. I think it makes sense. I don't know. I agree that Dana didn't go earlier, but I think the only like justification I can think of it is if you're looking at your female and non-binary options, Dana is by far the best, but a step down from Dana isn't as like a huge hit as you would get for not having some of these like elite leaders. So it makes sense that they did go a little later. I could see them being a first or second round pick always anyway. Belton was the top scorer with Tony at Western Quidditch Championship, and Dana was also up there. So this is going to be a very quaffle points heavy team, and I think it's a smart pick and it makes sense, and I'm excited about it. Okay, we got Teal with their third pick next, getting into the female chaser action with Dara from Cal. Catherine, what do you think of this pick?
I'm a huge Dara fan. Dara's my favorite. Love her. She's also got a really, really good field awareness. She consistently will be, she's a wing chaser. She'll be behind the hoops, and next thing you know, she's standing right there, ball in her hands, and she just drops it in. I think she's really quick. She can get around people. And also I think a lot of players tend to underestimate her. So she'll go unguarded for a long time, and she'll just like appear out of nowhere next to the hoops and get those passes. It did say in the notes that she could be subbed as a beater. I don't really know what that was about. Like, I don't think Yeah, like she's a chaser. I never have seen her beat before except in like practice as a joke, but she definitely is a great chaser, and she can get physical if needed, and she also just like led the team really well last year as captain, and she really knew what she was doing.
The Dara pick made me like the Aiden pick a lot more personally. I was hoping that Teal would follow up with some Cal chasers that kind of know Aiden's game a little bit, just because Aiden's so like new and having some more support on like what he needs and how he does know how to play. So I think that's a really smart combo, and I think it makes a lot of sense to put them together. Dara's great. She has field awareness the way that Dana does. They're both always in the same place at the right place at the right time. I think I couldn't pick a better like first female chaser on the board. We have Teal's last pick with rounding out with another Cal player with TJ Hanlon, a keeper from Cal. Catherine, what do you think of this one?
I think this is a really good combination. I do like TJ's style. He's not a very fast player, but he does have good field awareness, and he would utilize Dara really well, and Aiden. Typically when TJ would probably then be keeper and Aiden would be played as a chaser in this combination. And with his passes and both of them being able to get behind the hoops well, it would round out well. TJ also can just kind of plant his feet and not be moved by anyone. He's a big guy, and if he needs Philip, who would then be like clearing out the line, he could just stay there until everyone's out of his way, and he will drive if he needs to, and he can also pass well.
Yeah, I like the TJ pick. I was a little surprised to see them not go for more of like an off-ball chaser after already like their first pick being a keeper. But like you said, Aiden can flex to a chaser line, and that makes sense. He's more than capable of playing chaser. But I didn't expect to see this name come up on the Teal team with them. But I think this is a great Cal setup, and I think Philip will fit really well into the Cal line that they're building so far.
Yeah, I think it is interesting that they've got 3 Cals and 1 UCLA on this team. I'm curious to see where they're going to go from here.
Yeah. Well, knowing pretty much how most of these people play together, it would work well. I can attest to that.
Okay, we got Gray's last pick. Going back to AQ, we got Tony Gomez, a keeper. Rachel, what do you think of this pick?
But yeah, Tony and Daniel are definitely going to mesh really well together, and he has definitely the height advantage on him as a keeper, just along with like a lot of these other keepers out here. He has the athleticism. He is able to drive just like Daniel, so it'll be nice that they have 2 people on their team that can drive. I think he would mesh really well with Dana too, because Tony's definitely one of those keepers that is not afraid to pass to his female chasers on the wings at all, and he would definitely use or female non-binary or any of his wing chasers. So Tony would definitely utilize Dana really, really well. It'd be really interesting to see how these people work together.
Yeah, I think the Tony pick is really interesting. First, that he went so late. I don't know like where I would place him. I've never really put too much thought into it, but like he's a very, very solid player, and he's somebody like just being on the sidelines for AQ during like regionals games and stuff like that. Like Tony is 100% a player who is going to give his 100% every single time he goes onto the field. And if he's not, then like he's probably not on the field. Like, yeah. So yeah, I think that it's like a really good, like I think he got pretty good value here for like where he is, especially for this team that doesn't like, Belton can play ball carrier, but this like having Tony here like also opens it up that Belton doesn't have to play ball carrier now. You know, Dana can ball carry, but it's like all these players like have very like versatile like roles, and I think that having all 3 of these chasers on your line really opens up how that line can play within itself.
And adding on to what Erin said about having another ball carrier, Tony isn't one of those players that gasses out really fast. He can be the main keeper for a team and not have a lot of subs. So that's going to really help out Daniel, because I love Daniel and he's a great player, but he will gas out if he's your main ball carrier. Daniel goes 100% all the time, but that means he needs kind of like 2 subs if you're going to play a whole tournament with him. Otherwise, he's going to die halfway through the day. So having another ball carrier that can relieve some of that stress for him will help him keep up his stamina too.
See, and I am wondering, because of that, if they're planning on having Tony be their dedicated keeper so that they can have Daniel do like really hard chaser and then sub, and then like really hard chaser sub and then seek, because they haven't drafted a dedicated seeker. So I'm curious if that's their plan, is to utilize Daniel as much as possible.
That's true, because you're definitely going to have to give Daniel some time to catch his breath before he goes in the seeker. Because like I said, he goes 0 or 100%. So he definitely is going to need a break if you need him to be like one of your main chasers and possibly ball carriers, and you're going to have him be your main seeker too.
Okay, we're going for Red's last pick of the day is another UCI player. We've got Stephanie Lutz, a beater. Rachel, what do you think of this pick?
I'm not surprised to see Steph on here. She has definitely grown her skills a lot over the year. I feel like even just in her first year, she started to make a name for herself. And now that she's had 3 years of experience, plus she played on OC Riptide, she played on LA Guardians, she's definitely been building up a lot of experience, and she's one of those beaters that you can put on with anyone. You don't have to worry about her being compatible with another beater. She will adapt to whoever she's with. And I know that from like personal experience being her captain, like anytime we were making sub lines, if we were stressing out of like what beaters could play with which beaters and, oh, this person is injured, they can't play, Steph was always the one that you could put her in with anyone and it was going to work, and you knew it was going to work. So I don't know too much about Ivan, but I'm sure that she would work perfectly fine with him. But yeah, she is just one of those players that will match the pace and the tempo of her other beater, and will get in sync with them really fast. She's really good at reading the pitch, and she's not the most aggressive player. She's not Kobe, who's going to be running all over the place, but she pairs well with a beater that's like that. So she can definitely adapt to any person that's going to be on the pitch with her.
I'm going to go ahead and, sorry, Rachel, I do not like this combination. I love Stephanie as a player. I do agree with Rachel that she is a very versatile and adaptable player. However, she does not have a ton of stamina. She is not a crazy athletic player. And from what I've seen on film and in gameplay of how Ivan plays, is that especially if he is going to be playing against beaters like Justin and Kobe, he's going to get himself into situations that he cannot get himself out of. And I'm not confident that Steph is going to be able to keep up with his fast pace of play in order to clean up after him successfully. I think it's going to put her in a bad situation. I think it's going to just, honestly, she's just going to be playing cleanup. And she's going to need a sub, which automatically puts this team at needing, if you're playing this for real, all of your beaters are probably going to need at least one sub. But like this combination, especially if you're going to like have Stephanie playing with Ivan, she's going to need a sub like very quickly, because otherwise like she's not going to have a lot of downtime where she's able to just like play that free beater role successfully. And she's not going to have a lot of downtime to be kind of monitoring what's going on in the game, because Ivan's going to be running around doing all this other stuff. And she's going to have to be kind of like watching that, also watching Quaffle, like just metering all of these different roles at the same time.
Okay, that's a fair assessment, Erin. Like I said, I don't really know Ivan super well, but after hearing what you said, I would actually agree with what you're saying. If he can't keep up too much with Kobe and Justin, then that is probably going to be a struggle for Red Team. I can see that.
The only thing I was going to add is I think as far as female beaters go in the West, Stephanie is up there and is overall a good pick to have on a team. But I do agree that it's going to be a struggle with Ivan. It sucks that like we just have to view her as someone who's going to clean up after him and not of like what else she can do by herself. But I don't think we're going to see what she can do by herself because Ivan is going to be such a dominant player, and he's going to make his moves, and that's going to be it. I was a little surprised that Red didn't try to keep Ivan on just like a double male set because that's pretty much all Cal plays. Calvin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've seen much female beaters on Cal ever. So I was surprised they just didn't try to keep that consistency because there are still some talented male beaters out there, and I think that may have just made more sense because that's what Ivan's used to. But I like Stephanie's got a lot of talent. We played Guardians, and from the beginning of the Guardians summer to the end of it, she was a different player. Like she made a huge transition just then, has only improved since then. But I think that she struggles to work with Kobe, and I think because of that, she'll also struggle to work with Ivan. But as far as just being her own player, I think she's a good pick. Okay, purple. Last pick, we're going with Nicole Nelson from Cal. Catherine, what do you think of this pick?
It kind of surprised me to see her up here this early, but at the same time, Nicole is a really strong player. I think having her here as a chaser is definitely the move. She's definitely way more consistent as a chaser. She's got height, and yeah, she's got a good size, so she can take players, and she's not going to be impeded by someone else at the hoops when she's jumping to dunk or something. But at the same time, I do think that her passes can sometimes be inconsistent, so using her as a keeper would not be probably a good move. But I would be interested to see this team lineup having Jonathan as keeper, because I know that he doesn't really utilize the female chasers very well, but I think if he were to, Nicole would be a good choice. And yeah,
Nicole's only one season in, right?
So this is her first year.
Yeah, I was also, when this one came out, I was also surprised the first time I'd ever spoken to Nicole was on a BAC episode, and she was great. But I've played Cal once, and I don't really remember her as a super standout player. And Cal is known for having more than competent female chasers. Like that's like what Cal always has that. So I was also surprised to see her go this early. I think she's a smart pick. I think she's going to be able to hold her own. I think they could have waited and maybe gotten a stronger player now and taken Nicole 5 or 6.
Yeah, my first thoughts when I saw this pick was like, now I'm thinking that purple team is just drafting everybody who could possibly play keeper so that nobody else can have a second line. Like, there's a very clear strategy here that we all missed. But yeah, I definitely, like I stated before, I do have my hesitations about the Jonathan pick, and picking Nicole so early as your first and only right now female chaser with 1 year of experience. Like, that's not really, I don't know if she's, and obviously, this theoretical situation, they have a month of practice together, all that good stuff. But like, I don't know if, like off the bat, that would be a convincing player to like get these male ball carriers who are not used to utilizing female chasers to actually pass to them and use them successfully.
Okay, and the last pick of our draft, back to blue, is our Catherine herself. So Catherine went as the last pick. I personally am a huge Cat Condit fan. After we played at Red Bull, I found a team photo, screenshotted Catherine, sent it to Pfenning as the Cruise 95 because they like balled out this whole tournament. And since then, I have been a huge fan. I'm surprised that Nicole went before Catherine here. Maybe it's the whole keeper strategy that Erin was talking about. I think Catherine has stepped up to the plate as like filling like the AJ holes that were left behind on Cal. I think it's a smart pick. I think Cameron and Catherine are going to work very well together. no one trusts their female players more than Cameron, period. Like, I play a game with a keeper that doesn't trust me, and I touch the ball twice. I play with Cameron, I score like 5 goals. Like, it's incredible what he's capable of. So I'm really stoked about the Blues lineup so far. I think it was a smart pick. Yeah.
Like, I don't know how Blue Team keeps getting these picks. Like, it does not make sense to me at all. I don't know all the players out here, but like, I know when I recognize names. And when Catherine's name was like on this list again, I was like, how did we get so far without her being drafted? Catherine, sorry, this is weird for you because you're here, but like,
just pretend I'm not here.
Catherine is one of those players that is just like an enigma in Quidditch to me, because like, you're not invisible. You are very, very apparent when you're on the field, and yet when you score, no one has seen the fact that you were by the hoop. Like, you're just like there and you do it, and then you're out and it's over, and it's just like chef's kiss.
I said this before and I'll say it again. I'm excited to see the rest of Blue Team's picks, because like Erin said, how do they keep getting these good players? Like, how is no one else stealing them? So I don't know a lot about Cal and too many of their players, but I specifically do remember playing against Catherine. And every single time that you were on the pitch, I was like, oh shoot, I have to deal with her again. Because like, you're really fast on your feet, you're really good with your hands, and like Erin was saying, you're one of those players that kind of gets overlooked on the pitch, even though you shouldn't, because you're really good. And like, you're able to like just walk up to the hoops almost sometimes, or even if you do need to get around someone, you're able to do it. So I think, and having you with Cameron would like definitely give you all those opportunities to really shine and do all the things that you can do.
Hyped to be on this team.
Yeah, you got a really good team.
Yeah, I'm like, I saw the team, I was like, wow. I'm just excited to catch the ball and do things.
You'll get plenty of chances to catch it. So
I'm not I'm done. I'm not gonna say anything.
Okay, awesome. So that's our first 4 rounds of the WCC draft. I'm going to leave the draft board up just while we're talking in case anyone wants to refer back to it, viewers included. Did anyone have any surprises that you didn't expect to see, or people that you thought you were going to see in the first 4 rounds?
So, like y'all were saying, Nicole went pretty early for being a first year. I am a little surprised we didn't see an Anna Gomez from Utah State, because she's like one of their biggest scorers. Like, she can just catch it and put it in if she's next to the hoop. Also, Carrie Anderson. There are 0 people from Arizona on this draft so far, and I think that Carrie got overlooked because she basically ran NAU by herself, and I think that would have been a good pick to put there. Because she both has experience and is really good at both driving and just catching and putting it in real quick. So either Anna or Carrie, I'm a little surprised neither of them are on here.
Yeah, I'm going to say, as I think we've all said at this point more than once, I'm not the most familiar with Cal's team, and I am very familiar with AQ, but I think that I would have put AQ's, she was also a rookie, Brittany. I would have put her up pretty early, honestly. And it's very likely that somebody is waiting to draft her until the later rounds, because you're going to get a lot of value for her at a later round, because I think nobody really does know her. But she was just like a really solid, just like one of those players who just like came out, had been involved in sports before, very athletic, like picked the game up super quickly. Not to the detriment of anteaters, but I don't think that she was given the best potential to like reach what the top of her game could have been in the 1 year that she played. But she had all the mechanics like right there, and I do think we are going to see her later on. I might have ruined that surprise for people who are planning to draft her later, but
anyone else? I have if this was me picking these teams, or if I was the purple GM and I had gotten to Nicole on my spot, Anna would have been a great pick. But personally for me, I think I would have picked our Rachel here. I think Rachel is a star. I have seen like the same way that I saw Steph changes as a player on Guardians, I saw Rachel change as a player on Guardians. And I think she's just gotten better since then. So I think we'll see Rachel in these next few rounds also. I would have probably taken her over Nicole just because Rachel has a lot more experience, has played with more people, and has played on various teams, and I think that probably may set up Purple with a little more success. Not that I think any female at this point is really going to be utilized on Purple, so maybe it's for the best. We'll see. I would love for this team to actually happen and for us to all be proved wrong. I have hope that Kellen could do it but he's just so used to his driving, and I don't know. We'll see. Well, I guess we won't see. We'll never see. We'll never know. But that probably would have been a slot for me. But I do think Anna would have been a great pick. I put her in the new cover photo because I am her biggest fan. I was also surprised of not a single Arizona name coming up. I think Will Bray or Brooke Yerin or Michelle Cohen or Amanda Clark. I don't know if they're top 20, but there's a lot of good names in Arizona. And I think maybe because they're all names that people don't know as well, everyone's like, I can get Arizona people later. And we have to get California players now because everyone knows them. So that's what I think the mentality must have been, because Arizona's kind of been flying under the radar for a year or two. So I'm hoping to see some of those names come out in the 5, 6, 7, 8 picks. But I was surprised that there's not a single one on the board, because I think at least Carrie or Will Bray could have been one of these top picks. So
yeah, I'm also thinking that I'm wondering if there's going to be more Utah players, and I might be biased because I'm from Utah, so I want to see more of us on there.
I also Utah players.
Yeah, right. But I do think there's a decent number of beaters in Utah that could be up in the next few rounds. They're not, no Utah beaters are particularly aggressive, but we're trained to be smarter. We try to play around other people's strengths versus just trying to do brute force. So I do think Adam Searle, he's very underrated. He doesn't get talked about nearly as much as he should, because he came in the shadow of Drew Smith. He came in the shadow of Anthony Snap. But he's same tier as them. He can run the field by himself if he needs to. So I think that would be a good pick to come up later on. Also, Matt Jackson from my team, he did play Hive for 3 years. He does have that experience. He's the new coach of the team. He's the most experienced player. He definitely ran the field for us this last season, and I do think that he would be a good pick. But I don't know how well these GMs know the Utah teams to make that choice, because like I said, both Adam and Matt Jackson, they're very underrated for how much they can do.
As far as Utah beater goes, I can also see you being a great pair with Justin, Drew, or Phillip. The 3 teams that don't have their pair set up yet, I think you could fit in with any of those beaters and be enmeshed well with, especially Drew. I've never seen you play together, but I just know that you have that Utah mindset of strategic thinking, and I think you'll be able to work well together. I don't know what these GMs are going to do, but like you said, Utah names just aren't known, and I think every name that is known in Utah is already on the board. So we'll see where they go with it, but I'm excited, that's for sure.
I think in general, we do need to see a lot more of the intelligent beaters kind of get on this board. Another player that I want to see specifically, Red GM, I don't know who you are, but I really need you to draft Timothy Connor to save your team for me, because I think Timothy would be a great pair for both Ivan and Stephanie. That would kind of fill in the gaps that you need on either end. Timothy is, again, Southern California player, sorry, not Utah. Get away from that again, but he is a highly intelligent. He plays kind of the free beater role to Kobe. So he does have that adaptability that kind of Drew Smith does and stuff like that. He can get in his own head. So I think that him not going in these first rounds, I think that's fair. But I think it would be a really good balance for the high aggressive physicality of Ivan. He can run around, be as aggressive as he wants, essentially play the Kobe role, and then Timothy knows how to match that perfectly. And then Timothy and Stephanie are like a mixed set for UCI, so that we always know that they're going to be able to merge together.
Yeah. Well, and another adaptable player, I think Lindsay brought her up, Michelle Cohen from ASU. I've drafted her for fantasy teams before. She's really adaptable for whoever you want her to play with. She can play double female. She can play split. Like, she's a really good beater pick. So I think you could put her on any team and she would do well with whatever beater you put her with.
Agreed. Michelle's great. I am definitely surprised by the lack of Arizona, but like I said, I just think everyone thinks they can get whatever Arizona player they want later because they're just not as known as these players that are picked. And I think we'll see a huge influx in them later in the rounds, or at least I hope we will. But all right. Does anyone have anything else they would like to add before we wrap this up? Thoughts, feelings, predictions?
Yeah. So kind of along the lines of like, I'm not shocked that I didn't see this, but I wish I did see this, is more of a mix of genders in the first draft. And, you know, I'm not shocked that it's mostly male, but I am going to be interested to see like when they start picking more female and non-binary players, because there is a gender cap on this. So it'll be interesting to see when they start picking those and how those mesh into this.
Yeah, I agree.
With the 7 max gender, I think that it's going to, I think some of these teams may be putting themselves in sticky situations, but I guess with the 7 max gender is maybe those males are just, they are being viewed as more valuable because you get less of them. So you have to like make those picks stronger when you're going to get more females than a typical team would see. You have a little more flexibility there, I guess. I don't really see, I think we've only got one team so far that has more than one female or non-binary player, right? Yeah, blue team is the only team that has started off with 2 and 2. So I think they're in better shape just for later draft like situations. But I honestly, when I first looked at this, I had so many things going on. I didn't even notice that Maxine was the first female we saw picked, and it went the first pick of the 3rd round. And I think that's a little sad, but hopefully we'll see them. Well, we have to see an upswing because they have a max cap, so they don't have a choice.
But I will say that it's understandable though that there's 2 rounds of all males, because just in Quidditch in general, your ball carriers are typically male, and a team wants to have a strong ball carrier in order to have someone who can read the field or drive it in. And then they also want to have a strong beater. So I think that's why our first 2 rounds we're seeing strong male ball carriers and strong beaters versus like strong female or non-binary anything else. It's just because that's typically the positions that are played, and that's what you want to like build your team around.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's important to have strong ball carriers and strong beaters, but by 2nd or 3rd round, I hoped to see a little bit more genders showing up in there. I think it's mainly because a lot of the GMs probably had the mentality of like, oh, like the really good male players are going to get snatched first, so I have to snatch those first. And I think that's sort of a mentality that I'm hoping will start to change in the next few years in the Quidditch community, because some people are starting to realize that by devaluing females and non-binary players in the community, it's weakening your teams. Like, you know, we've talked so many times about how blue team not only has a 50-50 gender on there, but it also has Cameron, who's a player who's known to pass to female players a lot, and that's going to strengthen their team a lot. Whereas we talked about like purple team has players that have a reputation for not utilizing their female players, and I think that's honestly going to weaken them. That may change with who they pick going into the next draft, but I think that's going to be a weakness for them going further into this. So it would be nice to see a little bit more of a mesh of that in this. So hopefully we'll see that in the next draft. I think that's something also like how we've talked about Arizona players are getting overlooked just because they're not well known. And there's other players that don't have as much of a big name. Like Erin mentioned, Brittany is a really good rookie, but because she's only been playing for a year and she didn't get to like show her full potential, she's someone that might get a little overlooked. And if we got to see these teams in real life play, it'd be interesting to see those Arizona players and those other players that aren't getting picked yet, see if they would like really start to shine in the end.
Great points. All right. Anyone else have anything to add before we wrap up?
We're doing predictions. I'm thus
Yeah.
blue team.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Blue team is gonna dominate at
Hey.
least thus far. we're only a third of the way in, but blue team, they're just well-rounded all around, and I feel like the other teams are lacking in some areas in one way or another.
Yeah, blue team checked a lot of boxes very quickly. I think my second pick may be gray because I think they're just set up really well for success. There's still, like, it's hard to pick a team without their beater set locked in, but I do really like the way that it's set up now, and I think that everyone on their team is going to bring, like, so much to whatever Gray wants to do with them, and I can't imagine things going poorly later in their picks with that as a start. So I blue for sure, just because they are, like, locked and loaded, almost have a first line ready to go, but Gray is 1 second.
Well, like you said, the it's hard to tell without the beater partners set up, but we talked a lot about how Drew's able to beat with like anyone. So yeah, I agree. They're set up pretty well. Like they can pick anyone and their team should do at least decent as far as beating.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. So that is going to conclude our first episode of going over the Western Collegiate Conference draft. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in, and thank you to my fabulous panelists for joining us, especially Danika, who I messaged a few hours ago because Brooke Erin was supposed to be here and then got called up into a work thing, and I was like, who can I get into doing this with a few hours of notice? So happy that you're able to step in and bring some Utah insight into all of this. And that's it. We will see you whenever we film the next video.